I first sought help for my mental health about 7 years ago. I needed to lose weight for my health because I have a genetic condition. So I started to lose weight. Obviously, after a while, I saw the difference, and other people commented on what they saw. Because of this positive reaction I got, how differently I felt, the weight loss got more and more rapid, and it quickly became uncontrollable. We had one GP tell us once that he thought that it was, for the most part, environmental that I became poorly. And it didn't suit my recovery to be playing a blame game or to be overly focusing on the origins of my poor mental health. So 17, 18, losing a lot of weight, losing too much weight, things are becoming uncontrollable. And I start to realise I'm having intrusive thoughts. I have quite a potent memory when I was in upper sixth of going home and reflecting and realising and telling my mum, I can't stop thinking about food. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't control it. This was weird. This was foreign. This was wrong, because everything was about food. And I was so sad. And it was just about getting through each day. We sought help with Children's Mental Health Services, CAMS. It took a while, but I think we got an appointment. We were seen more quickly than I have in more recent years when I've tried to get through to adult services. And that's when I was first formally diagnosed with something. And I was formally diagnosed with depression, and I was formally diagnosed with an eating disorder. No specific eating disorder, just an eating disorder. But actually the symptom that presented itself the most was the depression, and that's what we had to deal with in the first instance. So I was put onto antidepressants. It took a while then to see a psychologist and to start therapy, but that eventually did happen. And I was 17, so I was on the borderline. It was all with the awareness that soon that therapy would have to stop, because once you're 18, that's it, you're ousted out of CAMS. And you need to seek out adult mental health services.
There's quite a disparity to having an eating disorder as a child, and then as an adult, there's different criteria for services. So you have to be iller as an adult to access services than you do as a child. Esther was doing really well in the child service, but it stopped.
It just stops like that.
Just stopped, full stop. Even though they hadn't reached a natural end. So what they do is they refer to adult services knowing that she won't qualify. They say everything very subtly to prepare you for the fact that they don't think she's ill enough for adult services.
It got to, and this is what I remember quite vividly, it got to New Year's Eve. I'd go out early in the morning, I'd go to Costa Coffee, I'd eat half a packet of dried mango. I'd drink less than a quarter of the Frappuccino that I was buying. I had numerous sets of stairs in the shopping centre, and I had to go up every single one of them. If I didn't, I was going to get fat. What I was and wasn't seeing was how tiny and very, very ill I was becoming. Despite everything, some survival instinct trumped anorexia, which I was diagnosed with very shortly after, and said, I can't do this anymore. Mum, help me. So Mum and Dad took me to A&E, which is not the best place to go when you're having a mental health crisis, but where else is there? So we're sat in A&E, and, A&E have got a duty to keep me in because they did the various tests, and, my heart rate was really not what it should have been, and my blood sugars were next to nothing. So they had a responsibility to keep me in. But what happens is they keep you in until your blood sugars go up. You're not in dire straits according to your heart rate. Whatever equations they come to, it's not enough to force you to stay in A&E and they send you home. I think I was very, very lucky that night, because there was an A&E doctor who went, again with my parents pushing them, they went and they saw another consultant out in the hospital who had some mental health and eating disorder awareness, and they found a gastro consultant who had dealt with people with anorexia nervosa and other eating disorders, so knew the signs and also knew what other tests to run, and other tests were run, and my liver was breaking down. So this gastro consultant said, you need to go into high dependency. So that was it. It was bed rest. You cannot get out of your bed. Now, eating disorder head is working away. And I'm thinking, they can't force me to do this. So when I, was cutting corners and sneaking out of my bed to brush my teeth and sneaking out of my bed to go to the toilet on my own without getting in the wheelchair and this, that, and the other, they thought, we're going to have to section her. And I remember at the time thinking, this is really bad. I don't want this. But I also remember there was a part of me that was just so relieved. I was so relieved.
I've had to do a lot of pushing in the background, and Esther's not always been aware of it, either literally aware of it, as in she's been in the room and not well enough to retain it, what I've said and done, or she's not been aware of it because I haven't told her.
I might add here that Mum is a social worker, so she knows how to fight for services for people. I have myself been in a situation where I've had to one-on-one push for help. Mum more so though, because usually I'm so ill that I either can't or I won't. When I went to these Warrington services and I was assessed alone because I'm an adult, and it's not written anywhere that I need my mum to be there to answer for me, And it was, to my knowledge, a senior mental health nurse, he was. And he assessed, and he said to me in so many words that you don't qualify for our help. You're not ill enough. And I said to him, so what are you going to do? Are you going to let me go home and suffer with depression and, not be able to nourish myself? I have to rely on my mum to nourish me. And for the most part, I have to have a fight with her. Our relationship is fractured because of this disease. I have to fight her. She has to fight me to get me to eat just enough. And that's just enough. This is no quality of life. And you're going to let me go home and I don't qualify for any services. And, as well as this eating disorder, I've got anxiety and I'm presenting aspects of OCD and I'm depressed and, I've got no friends and I can't tolerate company. And, I'm not getting qualifications because I'm not running on a full tank. I said all this to him, and he said, I think he agreed to another assessment.
He agreed to let Esther be assessed by their team dietitian. They said, we can offer you a session with a dietitian, an eating disorder specialist dietitian. That was it. That's what that service was offering us. That Esther didn't qualify for anything else. So we went to that one session with their dietitian, and they had a trainee psychologist observing as part of her training. And I then addressed the student psychologist and said, do you take patients as part of your training? You know, and she said, I do actually. And I take them either with my supervisor, or I take them and then I have very close supervision. I said, right, can you take Esther? And she said, I'll see. I was quite surprised that she said yes. And so was the dietitian that was in the room.
I was very, 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 very fortunate. 9 out of 10 times that person wouldn't have got any mental health support, and God knows what would have happened to them. There's so many people out there who don't have someone to vouch for them and to fight for them.
I think it's very interesting.
It's unbelievable.
In the eating disorder unit, it's that how little quite a lot of the staff know about mental health and how to support people when they're depressed.
They very rarely associate depression with it, which surprises me, which shocks me. Why wouldn't we be depressed?
It's very practical, the unit. It's refeed, go and recover in the community, which is great, but there's no support in the community either.
There were groups every week as well, run by a psychologist, but you know, none of that was made obligatory like other aspects of the recovery, like the eating and the not exercising. That was all obligatory, but those groups weren't. So you had to be motivated to go to those groups, which included distress tolerance and nutritional education, trigger spotting. But you had to be motivated enough to go to them. And a lot of the people I became quite close to in the unit, they didn't go to them.
So that's where the importance of those one-to-one support staff is. It's in those relationships, it's in those interactions, because those people in that stage of the illness are still in the thick of trauma.
When you're in a mental health institution, you're sectioned, and the people you need to go to for advice on how to survive and how to get better are people who've been through the system longer and who are your fellow patients. They're people who are offering up the advice because they know a little bit more than the nurse who's on duty tonight. People don't really understand eating disorders, I don't think, as well as they should, for such a dangerous mental health issue.